What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the PV-1 Ventura here on Ben Builds. This is the final episode of this amazing model kit, guys. So let's go ahead, waste no time, and get right into it. Now, last episode, we overcoated the entire aircraft with a sealant coat of Future. All the decals are on. They're looking pretty slick. We are ready to go ahead and start the weathering process. But before we can weather anything, we have to go ahead and also paint up a couple of parts and pieces. We have to go ahead and work on the propellers. We have to install the bombs. We have to install the gun turrets, both the top turret and the ventral turret. We have the aerials to install. We have a lot of little bits and pieces to go ahead and throw onto this aircraft before we can go ahead and call this one finished. So let's go ahead and jump in on the propellers. The propellers themselves need to be painted. Now, I've already painted the black on the blades, so that's fine. The very center section of those propellers have to be silver. So we're going to go ahead and paint those by hand using some Vallejo chrome. That's going to give it a little bit of color contrast with the center hub. I think it's going to look really awesome. So let's go ahead and just dive right on in and get these hubs all painted up. All right, while those propellers are off on the side they're drying, we're going to shift over to weathering. Now, weathering is honestly a very, very terrifying prospect because here you've got this beautiful gloss finish. You're going to come in, you're going to purposely damage it. And that's always kind of weirded me out a little bit, but we're going to try it because honestly, this aircraft is way too shiny. We don't want a museum finished piece. We want something that looks like it's been flying around in the Pacific just a little bit. I don't want to go too heavy because I'm not really used to heavily weathering things. I already lack a little bit of the skills to weather, so we're not really going to push it too far. But we are going to go ahead and start off with an oil wash. Now I'm going to be using some sienna and I'm using some burnt umber. These are oil paints, nothing too fancy. So my intention is to create almost like a rust wash. So I can go ahead and just slather it onto the aircraft, only on the white though, on the underside of the aircraft. And that's going to hopefully shift the color a little bit more towards the red and kind of grimy appearance, but still retain that white color. I don't know if it's going to really work, but I appreciated with this red-brown color, and that really made it look awesome, and I liked that effect. So we're going to try the same thing, but now with oil paint, and just kind of seeing where this goes. Now again, I'm no expert at weathering, guys, but I really want to try this, and I would love to get better with oils. Honestly, I really, really would. So let's go ahead and just try it, see what happens, right? Worst case, oil paint's pretty forgiving. You just wipe it off and start over again. So now that I have a nice little bit of a mixture here, very thin, we're going to go ahead and just kind of put a very light coat over all the white sections here on the underside of the aircraft. Again, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm hoping to go ahead and just tint it ever so slightly to appear almost like some rust might have gathered in certain areas and to kind of tint the paint down just a little bit. Nothing too crazy though. I don't want to go overboard with this one. So let's go ahead and just see what happens. All right, after action report, guys, I went ahead and slathered on the wash all over the entire underside of the aircraft, wiped it off. I think it actually looks pretty decent. Let me go ahead and show you here, pull off the wing. It actually tinted just a little bit here and there and gave it a nice look. At least I like it. Also off camera, I did a white wash on the very top of the aircraft using some titanium white and some Model Masters enamel thinner. I think it actually worked pretty well. It kind of clouded the surface just a little bit, which is what I was going for. So now it's a nice canvas. We can come back, do a little bit of work here and there. We do have to install the ventral guns as well as the propellers. We have to paint the tips of those yellow. And then of course we have to work on the top turret. Now I have that off to the side here, and that's going to be pretty easy to go ahead and assemble. It's pretty much done. I just got to basically drop it in, put the clear part on top of that, and glue it in. Last but not least, we do have to install the rear landing gear bay doors. So let's go ahead and dive in first though on the propellers, get those tips all nicely painted up yellow, and we'll see where we go from there. All right, everybody. So our propellers are pretty much done. We do have a little bit of work to do. We want to go ahead and put a decal on each of the blades. I think it's a Hamilton standard logo. We need to go ahead and put on those. So we do have to do that. And I also want to go ahead and kind of dust them with a little bit of some powder, just so that they aren't too bright and shiny. Now on the underside of the wings, we do have to do a little bit of painting. You can see here I've actually already masked it off. For some reason there are these squares. I don't know what they are or why they're there, but our instructions go ahead and call them out to be flat black. So we're going to go ahead and airbrush those and see what we can do. Now I used some Tamiya tape to go ahead and outline those, and I used the Scotch blue tape to go ahead and protect from overspray. So I think we're pretty much ready to go ahead and just use some basic old flat black by Tamiya. We're going to mix it up and we're going to shoot it through the airbrush, and that should go ahead and coat these nice little squares, and we should be good to go. Again, I don't know what these are. I thought they were maybe vents of some sort, maybe they're oil coolers. I don't really know, but they're supposed to be black, so let's go ahead and do it. So that was pretty straightforward. Well, nothing too fancy there. Let's go ahead and unmask, and there we go. So yeah, we are all done with that. I'm going to do a little bit of weathering on that. A lot of my references show some streaks, like some dust coming out of those, so I'm going to go ahead and do that with some pastels. But that should be decent enough. So yeah, both sides are done. Let's go ahead and move on. Moving right along, everybody, we're going to go ahead and install the bombs here into the bomb bay. Now, I know the bomb bay is kind of cheap. There's not a lot of action going on in there. I'm not too concerned about it, though, because honestly, it's recessed. You're not really going to see inside. I'm not going to have this on a mirrored base, so I've kind of kept those a little Spartan. The bombs are very simple affairs, just a couple of drops of glue, and we're going to head and install those in the rear, and then the front of the bomb bay, very simple affairs. Now, let's talk a little bit about the top turret here, guys. Now, I did not glue down the coping for the top turret. I figured I would put that on last because I don't want to go ahead and mask off a bunch of clear parts and run the risk of, having those fog or anything like that. So I've kept that off on purpose to go ahead and make it be one of the last things that we install. So the turret itself pushes up through the collar, and then that clear part goes down on top. So you can see it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Just a little bit of glue on the inside there for plastic to plastic connection, and we should be good to go. Go ahead and put that straight back down onto the top of the fuselage. I don't plan on gluing this down. I'm just going to leave it unattached. It looks fine. I'm not too worried about it. Plus, I've left the wings attached as well because I need to move this over to my display shelf at work. That's where this big one's going. So I've left those off. Should be fine. So with that being said, guys, it's now time to go ahead and string up the easy line for the aerials. Now, all of my references show that there's one that attaches to each of these twin tails, and they go ahead and circle up to the very front mast, circle around there, and then back down right into the front of the cockpit. So we're going to go ahead and string that with our easy line. To start off, we're going to take our pin vise, and we're just going to go ahead and poke holes about where they should be. I've looked at references, I've looked at our instructions, and this is approximately the best place for them right here. Then using my X-Acto knife, I'm going to round out the opening to get that nice and available to go ahead and receive the easy line, and then we're going to use a little bit of super glue to tack that in. This is always a little fidgety, to be honest, but we're going to go ahead and push forward. Then after that is done, we're going to go ahead and get the guns painted up, and then we're going to get the front navigation lights painted up as well, and then I think we'll be basically done with this aircraft. So let's go ahead and dive on in, push through. We're almost there, guys. All right, everybody, so let's go ahead and without further ado, show you the completed PV-1 Ventura by Revell. And here she is in all of her 1/48 scale glory. I gotta tell you, this is a big airplane. This is not a tiny airplane. This is a big, pretty substantial aircraft. I just absolutely loved every minute building this amazing kit. If you don't have one in your stash and you like World War II aircraft and bombers, especially like maritime patrol bombers, go ahead, pick one of these up. It is an amazing kit, super fun, really, honestly, a great experience. Let me give you a close-up here and you can check out the overall finish. Now, for the flat coat, I went ahead and I did a little custom mix. I went ahead and used Future and Tamiya flat base. Did about 2/3 Future and I did 1/3 Tamiya flat base. And it actually came out with a really nice looking finish. Not too glossy, not too flat. It's almost like a satin finish, just enough to give it a little bit of sheen, but nothing too stark. Did a little bit of weathering here and there with some basic weathering powders. I used AIM. Kind of left a little bit of a dirt look to it because I wanted it to appear that maybe some fuel had leaked out and kind of collected some dust and dirt. Kind of changed the shade of the paint right there a little bit. I like the effect. I think it looks pretty decent. The octopus tentacles, of course, were the hardest thing to do on the aircraft. You don't have to paint them. You can use the decals. I just really wanted to try it. For some reason, I wanted to paint them on. I did it, but it turned out better than I expected. So with the bottom of the aircraft, I also used the oil wash and everything looks pretty decent in there. It's got a little bit of almost like a red coloring here and there, and I like the different tonal changes I have on the paint. It's not perfect, but I like it. Also, the Bombay, I would say, needs a little bit more detail in there, but I think we're okay with that. Those little side panels, I'm not sure what those are, but like I said, the instructions said they should be black. So I painted them black and I streaked them with a little bit of the grimy black to go ahead and appear like something had been kind of flowing out of them. Again, I don't know what they are, but that's my references showed. So, hey, we're good. The dorsal gun was a little bit finicky to get in there, and I'm not exactly 100% happy with the clarity of the clear parts, but I think honestly, they're fine. You're not really going to see them. So overall, this kit was awesome. Super fun to build. There's a lot of potential with this model. You know, you can do just a basic out-of-the-box build and it will look fantastic. Or you can do what I did, up the detail just a little bit there. I added the radio compartment in the back. I added some seat belts. You can take it as far to the detailed side as you want, or you can just build it right out of the box and it looks awesome. A couple of issues here and there with the bulkhead not being 100% correct, the propeller blades being a little too thin. But honestly, altogether in a full package, this is a big airplane and you really don't notice these little discrepancies here and there. It's just a really great kit. So I hope you guys have enjoyed watching me build it, because I've really enjoyed actually doing the work and really pushing the envelope and trying different things. It's been a lot of fun. And with that, we are pretty much done, guys. And my main focus on this build, honestly, was to go ahead and paint those octopus tentacles. They turned out beautifully. I did include a little bit of scratch building here on the radio compartment because there is kind of an empty void. If you look down through that canopy, you would have seen basically nothing. So now there's something there. You can't see a lot of it, but I think it's pretty decent. So we're going to go ahead and call it quits for season 8 of Ben Builds for the PV-1 Ventura by Revell 1/48 scale. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to figure out what's next on the bench, figure out what I'm going to be building and how I'm going to be doing it. Until next time, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on the next episode of Ben Builds. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.